You asked about it, we answered it. What does the Bible say about sex? What does the Bible say about smashing, knocking boots, doing it? Let's face it, when it comes to navigating seasons of life as a Christian, particularly this one, can be really hard in the times that we live because it seems like everywhere we go and everything that we do, we're constantly inundated with overt sexual innuendos. It's hard to stay pure. It's hard to keep our minds clear. It's hard to avoid lust. It's hard to avoid temptation because sex is being thrown at us on the nonstop. So the question is, how does God want us to act when it comes to sex? How do we navigate this path in a way that pleases God? In essence, we're going to answer that question today. What does the Bible say about sex? All right, well, the first thing we know about God and the reasons for sex is that God intended sex for procreation. God wanted us to make babies. As a matter of fact, one of the first things that God said in the Bible to Adam and Eve was, hey, make some babies, procreate. And God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Further on in Genesis, if we looked at chapter 9, verse 1, it says, God blessed Noah and his family and commanded them to go forth and be fruitful and multiply. If we continue on and we look at the book of Psalms 127, it says, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb, a reward. And this, of course, highlights how beautiful it is and how joyful it is and how much a reward it is to create children. God created relationships and sex because he wants us to grow our families and reproduce more children and more babies that reflect his image. And while we're at it, let's not forget or miss the point that two biological men can't procreate. Two biological women can't procreate. It doesn't work that way. God's plan, God's design is that a biological man and a biological woman get together, and that's where the magic happens. That's part of God's design. That's how babies are made. That's how we procreate. That's God's design for making babies. And you know what? It stood the test of time. As a matter of fact, it's undefeated. But as much as we talk about the fact that sex is for procreation, sex isn't only about procreation. Despite the fact that we've been given this charge to be fruitful and multiply, God's plan for sex isn't just for us to produce offspring. No, God made sex to be fun and he made it to feel good. It's meant to be pleasurable. It's meant to be an intimate experience shared between husband and wife. If we look back at the Bible, we look at Genesis 2:24, it reads, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Becoming one flesh refers to physical intimacy, but it also suggests that within a relationship, two people, their hearts and souls become so intertwined that they effectively become one. And that's why we seem to fit together so perfectly. God literally designed the male body and the female body to fit perfectly together. If you ever wonder why you fit so perfectly together with your spouse, it's because God made you that way, and that is a good thing. Again, that's part of God's design for sex. Pleasurable, good, fun, and he made it so that we fit together perfectly. And listen, the Bible's not a boring book. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to sex, it can get pretty hot. It can get downright steamy, and it can cause you to blush a little bit. Don't believe me? Let's take a look at the Song of Songs, chapter 7, verses 7 through 10. Your stature is like that of the palm, and your breasts like clusters of fruit. I said, I will climb the palm tree. I will take hold of this fruit. May your breasts be like clusters of grapes on the vine, and the fragrance of your breath like apples, and your mouth like the best wine. May the wine go straight to my beloved, flowing gently over lips and teeth. I belong to my beloved, and his desire is for me. That's pretty hot, right? Whew. And it gets even more steamy if we look at Proverbs chapter 5, verses 18 through 19. As men are encouraged to appreciate all of the attributes of their wives. Let your fountain be blessed and rejoice in the wife of your youth. As a lovely deer, a graceful doe, let her breasts fill you at all times with delight, and be intoxicated always in her love. Now listen, I feel pretty confident that all men are intoxicated by the image of their wife naked. I promise you this, as a matter of fact. And that's a good thing. And wives, listen, You should feel pretty good about the fact that your husband is intoxicated at the thought of your naked body. Like, there's no negative to that. That's completely positive that your husband gets excited and literally intoxicated when he thinks about every nook and cranny and curve of your beautiful body that God designed. I bet your husband would appreciate it if you felt the same way about his body as well, because we want to be desired by our spouses. As a matter of fact, again, that's part of God's design. If we look at 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 3 through 5, Paul gives pretty explicit directions to husbands and wives when it comes to how they should act and how they should live out their lives when it comes to sexual intimacy. The husband should fulfill his wife's sexual needs, and the wife should fulfill her husband's sexual needs. The wife gives authority over her body to her husband, and the husband gives authority over his body to his wife. Do not deprave each other of sexual relations unless both of you agree to refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time so that you can give yourselves more completely over to prayer. Afterward, you should come together again so that Satan won't be able to tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Sex isn't something that should be given as a reward or a treat or an enticement. And just because your spouse made you angry, or you might not like them on a particular day, or they may have aggravated you, you shouldn't withhold it from them as a form of punishment. That breaks away the biblical foundations of marriage. That breaks away the walls of marriage that sexual intimacy, as designed by God, was put in place to uphold. It tears it down, it breaks it apart. And if that's how you treat sex in your marriage is not in a good place. If you're physically able and you truly desire a better and stronger marriage, just to wrap it up for you and put a bow on it, you need to be having regular sex. Why? Well, again, because it's part of God's design. It's literally in the Bible. So in closing, when it comes to what the Bible says about sex, we should understand these three things. First of all, sex was made for procreation, for making babies, for producing offspring, for having kids that are the complete representation of the image of God on this earth. 2, sexual immorality of any kind is detrimental to mankind and against God's will for our lives. And finally, sex is made for a husband and a wife so that they can have a pleasurable experience, so they can have a joyful experience, so that they can build a better and stronger marriage through the bonds that sexual intimacy provides. Hi, I'm Jonathan Reynolds. I'm the online campus pastor here at Harvest Church, and we're so excited that you've taken time to check out our What Does the Bible Say About series. We've got a lot more interesting episodes coming your way as we explore what the Bible says about a lot of things that we typically don't discuss in church. You can subscribe right here to our YouTube page. You can follow us on Facebook at Harvest 378, and be sure to check out our website, the-harvest.org. And again, we thank you so much and look forward to engaging with you in the future.